Welcome back to Popcorn for Breakfast. As you can see, we've got a new table, and we also have a new review. It's called A Real Pain, starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. Let's chat.
This is Popcorn for Breakfast, presented by St. Louis Area Smoothie Kings. Now, here are your hosts, Cam and Kirk.
We didn't talk about the table at all in the last recording session.
No.
And how perfect it is.
It is great.
How do you feel about it? Do you feel like it was easier or harder to have a conversation about movies?
I feel good. I feel like the vibes are good. I'm not someone who believes in, what is it called? Feng shui?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that what it's called?
Feng shui?
Feng shui.
Feng shui?
I don't necessarily believe in that. Maybe. I don't even know really what it is. I just know what I know is that the vibe is good with this table. It feels good.
Feng shui is about energy, so then you have to like rearrange.
Yeah. So I would say vibe energy, right?
Yeah. So you do believe in feng shui. You believe that this feng
I guess
shui assisted in updating our energy.
I think it did.
Mm-hmm.
I think it did. It's early, small sample size, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling energetic.
I feel like my neck is already reversed. It's irreversible damage from having to cheat my head over to see your eyes.
Yeah. I think it helps. I think it's gonna help. We're gonna be thanking ourselves 30 years from now when we're not like twisted in an awkward position because of podcasting.
Welcome to Popcorn for Breakfast.
We have done like 1 million episodes of this show, so I think the damage may already be done. But it's never too late. It's never too late.
It's never too late. Well, speaking of pain, let's talk about our episode that we got to review, Cam. The episode in question, the movie in question, is called A Real Pain from director Jesse Eisenberg. That name might sound familiar. Cam, what movies come to mind when you hear Jesse Eisenberg?
Batman versus Superman. No.
Martha!
No, honestly, it really does. I hate that, though.
That's the first one. Let me be clear. That's the first one that comes to your head.
It was the first one. I don't know why. And then, honestly, right after that is Now You See Me, which, again, like, bad.
Wow.
So I mean, I think a social, like The Social Network, should come probably to mind.
And that's your third.
That's number 3. I had to force myself to think of that one, even though I love that movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got some real soul searching to do after this. I'm wondering what that reveals about myself.
My first one is absolutely The Social Network.
Sure.
Then The Squid and the Whale comes in because that's where I first saw Jesse Eisenberg, or first remembered that I saw him. And then I can't think of any other life with him in it. It's just become like, Jesse Eisenberg's here. Let's go. He's going to be Jesse Eisenberg.
He's going to be Jesse Eisenberg. I think of there's another David Fincher movie with him in it, isn't there? Or sorry,
7.
No, not David Fincher. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Aaron Sorkin. Isn't there another? Is he in Molly's Game at all?
I don't know. That Michael Cera is in.
I know Michael Cera is in Molly's Game. I feel like he's in another Sorkin movie.
We'll have to digest that and figure that out. So welcome to our review of A Real Pain. Got some fun stuff to digest. We just saw this movie a few hours ago.
Yeah.
With prime parking. The best parking.
Good parking spot. That's a good omen. I honestly feel like you get the good parking spot, you're feeling pretty. So, I mean, you should factor that in as like a multiplier on our score.
Yes.
You'll have to like, multiply, divide by 1.35 or something like that as to kind of like take out the parking spot factor.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, that was a good start for sure.
And then, I mean, it was like we walked right to the front doors. It was less than a 1 minute walk.
It was great. It was really, I mean, and on a Tuesday, Tuesdays are terrible days. Today was a terrible day. And then that happened, and I was like, you know what? Maybe there is hope. Maybe there's hope for the world yet.
Cameron was ready to give up.
I was, dude. I was on my hands and knees. I was like, this is just no more.
We'd like to dedicate this episode to the person who last left that perfect parking spot at the Alamo Draft House in St. Louis, Missouri.
They might have saved everything. They
did.
Might have saved this podcast. I don't know.
They did. So as per usual, we're going to chat through things. We're going to talk about and the Oscar goes to. That's the best actor we saw fit in this film. We're going to talk about the scene stealer, who was the best supporting actor. We'll talk about the showstopper, the moment, or a production piece of the story of the film that gave us chills and really just was a home run for the movie, made us stop on our tracks. Then we're going to put on some director's shoes in which we tell you how bad the director messed up. In this case, it's one of the leads of the film, Jesse Eisenberg. And then finally, we'll wrap things up with our final notes and score.
Yeah, let's do it. I'm
And
excited.
the best part about this is that I get to go first because you got to go first
Mm.
last time.
Can I take it back? I didn't want to use my go first on Venom.
Yeah, Venom 3, you didn't
That
anticipate.
sucks. we need to give out coupons for going first, and then we can exchange them or something. I
Ooh.
don't know. I want a refund.
Like a big veto button. Tell you what, we're going to bring games back into the podcast, Cam.
Oh no.
And when you win, you're going to win the veto to say, I get to go first.
I love that.
Coming soon. Here we go. Let's start with and the Oscar goes to, this is the best actor of the film, and I don't think there's another answer. It's Mr. Kieran Culkin, all the way back to his starring role in Home Alone back in good old 1992.
Fuller, go easy on the Pepsi.
And those eyebrows. I mean, who would have thought that that little kid would be a contender for Best Supporting Actor this year? I think he has a chance. There is just so much that he puts into this role. A lot of early looks and reviews for this role of Kieran Culkin, I think, compared him to his Succession character because it's the most recent visibility that we had to his projects, and it was a very long project. And this is his first film since doing that. I'm just absolutely impressed and enamored with the care that he put through this character. It was mesmerizing to watch him work. There were plenty of moments where he could have fed into his pocket and fed into like a comedy trope of all of this, but he was very clear in understanding the character and probably had long discussions with Jesse Eisenberg, who's also the writer of this film, in a way to find what the goal is for this character in all of these things. Is he free falling? Is he screaming for help? What is he trying to do whenever he does all the things he's doing? So I really, really, really absolutely thought that Kieran Culkin nailed this performance.
It's a good one, and I think to your point, like I know a lot of people are gonna talk about that Succession role and how this is similar to that because it's really one of the most prominent things that he's done recently, if ever. I mean, I feel like that's kind of like the hallmark of his career so far. And then there's this, and I think they are. I mean, there's no doubt they are similar, right? Like they're similar roles, but I think they exist on a spectrum too. So it's like this isn't wildly outside of his range. This isn't like when you see somebody who's somebody with incredible range: Christian Bale, Meryl Streep, Leo, Colin Farrell, all these people who have insane range. It's not like that where it's like, here's this performance and here's this performance all the way over here. It's definitely in the same stratosphere as that, but it's nuanced. And I think that I hope people don't overlook that when they look at it, because I do think it is markedly different from his role in Succession, even though they are similar. And he does take a lot of care with it. So I think that's a good call. For my and the Oscar goes to, I'm going to go with his scene partner and the other lead of this movie, Jesse Eisenberg, who's also, as you said, the director and writer of this movie. This is sort of a, as I understand, kind of a semi-autobiographical tale by Jesse Eisenberg. They even use, I think they use a house that was actually his real grandmother's house in Poland. So that's really cool. It's a unique story, and it's so intimate. And I think that really, as I praise his acting performance, I'm going to praise his directing at the same time, because I feel like this is such an intimate story and something that's so hyper focused on his experience and his life, but it does have broad appeal. But I think it is probably hard when you have such a clear creative vision and you've written the screenplay and you're directing the movie and you know exactly how things are supposed to be. It's probably hard to get into character, because you still have to play a character. Even if that character is you still have to make sure the theming lands and everything. You still have to make sure you craft that character so it's consistent within the movie. And I think he does a really good job. It's not perfect all the time. There are some moments, like I don't think Jesse Eisenberg is the kind of actor who just has superior range and acting ability. I think he has really good acting ability and a small range, actually kind of similar to Kieran Culkin in a way. And I feel like he really exploits that here. And it's really relatable. And I think that the way that he emotionally tells the story, he does some great emotional beats in this movie with real tears and real like awkward moments, like far beyond what we've seen him do, because he always kind of plays this awkward nerd trope thing.
Yeah.
But here it's like there's so many layers to it and there's so much depth and reality to it. It was really this was like Jesse Eisenberg 2.0 for me, where it's like he played the kind of character I expected him to play, but it was so much more tangible. Like you could reach out and touch it and feel it. And I love that.
Yeah, you could have a conversation with this version of
Yes.
Jesse Eisenberg. Previously, you'd be like, I want nothing to do with that guy. I'll watch him on screen, but there's not a chance that I would actively try to have a conversation with this person.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one is very different. I love that. I love also that they are, this spectrum of each of them have their own pocket, and you can tell they are at their strength, doing different choices that meet the characters and the story's needs. But definitely, when you go to see a Jesse Eisenberg movie, you know what you're going to see. You know you're
Yeah.
going to see that some kind of Jesse Eisenberg antics. Now we know Kieran Culkin from Succession, his greatest accomplishment, right? So far, this might be the next one. You go see a Denzel movie for Denzel. You want to see him Denzel across the screen, right?
Yeah,
Like there's all
right.
these things. So I absolutely love that. I love it so much. Let's talk about our scene stealer, our best supporting actors for this movie. I'm going to go with a guy named Will Sharp.
Good choice.
Yeah, he's a funny guy. He's from White Lotus, right? He played like the second in command to the hotel. Is that right?
I think so.
I only watched the first couple episodes of season 1. Don't come for me. And I loved him in that. I thought he was doing everything he needed to do. Was he in love? Did he fall in love with Sydney Sweeney? Kind of. Was that his character?
Dude, it's been so long. I don't even really remember, because like I didn't recognize him at all. So you saying he's in White Lotus is like blowing my mind a little bit right now.
I hope I'm right. I hope I read that right.
No, I think you probably are. I did not connect those dots.
Yeah.
But
well, what I love about his character and what stuck out to me is that he came across as this could have been an absolute throwaway character. He plays the tour guide in the for the tour that our two gentlemen are on. They're going to Poland to revisit history and eventually, as said in the trailer, visit their grandmother's home that she grew up in when she was in Poland. He plays the tour guide, and this could easily just be a couple of quips and he's just in the background. No, he has real plot moving moments throughout, and some are comedic and some are dramatic and some are in between. And I never thought that a character would be written so specifically like that. So then thinking about the writing aspect, thinking about Jesse Eisenberg and feeding off of true experiences, I wonder, like, did he have like a big impact moment with this tour guide that he went around with? And then I think about the moments in his differences with the tour guide and his differences with Kieran Culkin, the tour guide. And I'm like, is this like together? Like, is the relationship like parts of both? Like, I want to know so desperately how that all played out when he wrote it. But all that to say that it is really impressive when you can take a role like this that's supposed to be a complete background piece and make it memorable. There's there's probably a line in here that's so memorable that I might start saying to you, Cam. So look out for that.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, Will Sharp was in season 2 of The White Lotus.
Season 2.
That's what I was missing. I always think season 1 he was in season 2. It's a great pick. It's one that I would pick. Such a believable. You never think about, like, these tour guides have these sort of specific mannerisms, and they're kind of an archetype all their own that never get featured in a movie really, unless it's in like a campy, stupid kind of way. And he was such a big part of this movie that he was like tour guiding this whole time, and he does a phenomenal job. It's so believable. It's a great pick. For my scene stealer, I'm gonna go with I'm gonna not be able to say his name right because I didn't look it up ahead of time like I usually do. Kurt Igiawan, who plays Elosh. He is a person that they meet on the tour who is from Rwanda and escaped genocide and has converted to Judaism. So really interesting character background for his character. But what I love that he does in this movie is he just puts on a masterclass in reacting.
Yes.
I mean, it's just the best reactions because he's like, here he is. He's kind of a fish out of water in this group where it's all these like sort of what you would consider what you would expect when you imagine a Jewish person, like someone who looks like they're from Eastern Europe or has descendants from Eastern Europe, dark hair, etc. And you've got this guy who's like from Africa and he's converted to Judaism. And so he's in Poland trying to learn more. And he is going on, Kieran Culkin's character's name is Benji, and he's going through the Benji experience, which is like roller coaster galore. And the way that he reacts throughout this movie, it's funny, it's real, it's charming, it's kind of heartwarming because his character's such a sweet guy. And they go through so much, shockingly so much together over the course of this movie. And I thought he was excellent. I've never seen him in anything before to my knowledge. But it's such a fun character, and it's such a real kind of character that it had to be somebody from Jesse Eisenberg's real world experience that he derived this from. And I just loved it. I thought it was so great.
I have to think that if I'm the director, I would have set up all the other 5 or 6 people in the tour to not see Kieran Culkin until the first day of filming.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
That's what it feels like. It feels like they didn't rehearse with him at all.
Yeah.
That they come into these scenes, they know what they're supposed to do, and they're supposed to explore and once Kieran gets on set, because he's the firecracker. You don't know when he's going to go off. You don't know what he's going to do, right? And when you see his reactions to him, it's incredible. It's really fantastic.
It's so good. It really is great work.
Oh man, he's been in some other pretty cool stuff, pretty big projects. Looking through his filmography, he was in Skyfall as Q's assistant, so that's a big deal. He was in Beasts of No Nation. He was in the failed Pan, which was a Peter Pan adaptation, but he was also in Slow Horses, which is a great. It seems like a great TV series from Apple TV Plus, and of course this right here, A Real Pain, among others. So bravo to him. Let's move on to our next accolade, our next award. It's called Showstopper, and we're going to keep again as spoiler free as possible here, as we always do. There's a moment when we have our 2 lead actors, Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin, and they are on a rooftop about little over halfway through the film. And there is a moment, blink and you miss it, but Kieran Culkin puts on this just a reaction to something Jesse Eisenberg is saying. And it says everything you need to know about where his heart is at. It says everything you need to know where he has been, what he is feeling at that moment, and where he thinks he's going. And it is a single acting choice. I experienced this also in another movie called We Live in Time with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. And in the same way, it's just 2 actors on screen, and there is a moment that breaks all suspension of disbelief. It is a moment where it just hits your heart, and you don't know what to feel, but you're like comforted and sad and happy all at the same time. And it's one of those moments that you can't put into words on the rooftop in the film, and it's just perfectly constructed. I'd like to say that it's all Kieran Culkin. A lot of it is, but there's incredible lighting. It's an incredible location, and Jesse Eisenberg feeding the lines that feeds Kieran's reaction is, you can't make it up again. I don't know if it was one take or not, but you cannot create that again, and that is my showstopper.
Yeah, that's a good one. I know exactly what you're talking about, and it definitely conveys a lot. There's a lot of subtext in this movie. There's a lot left unsaid, which, if you know me, I love it. I love when the most powerful things said in a movie are not said, and I know that sounds cheesy, but truly, I think that's good screenwriting, and that's why I'm giving my showstopper to the screenplay. I think this is a phenomenal screenplay. I think this is an award-worthy screenplay, and I think one that we could see come next April during the Oscars, or February, or whenever it will be. It's really good screenwriting, and I think that it's all the more impressive that it's based on real experience, because I think what people don't understand is how difficult it can be to extract the level of detail necessary to tell a true to life story from your real life. And I know that this isn't fully autobiographical, and so he had to do some cinema-ing to make it work, but he does a phenomenal job. And I really do love this screenplay, because I feel like it says so much, and yet it's not overly ambitious. And I love that. A lot of times when you see movies like this that leave a lot to subtext, it's it's a lot to subtext, and there's a lot of interpretation, and I think that this movie is interpretive without over theming itself. It doesn't go too far in too many different directions. It's narrow in its scope, it's concise, but it's not shallow. It walks a very fine line, and I think that it's really well done. And you see these every once in a while, and a lot of times they come from Searchlight Pictures. We were kind of talking about that.
Oh yeah.
Searchlight Pictures has been doing really well with these types of movies, and it's really what this movie injects is like a concentrated dose of reality that is so real and so relatable. Probably not to everybody, but there are pieces of it that will be just intensely relatable to people, and it's deeply intimate and personal, and yet it's so effective. And I think that that's really hard to do. And so I give Jesse Eisenberg a ton of credit, and I would like to see this nominated. Lots of movies left to see, but this is one of the most impressive screenplays I've seen this year, for sure.
Indeed.
For sure.
Indeed. I imagine, even though I'm sure there were lots of creative improv that happened with such artists and actors of their caliber and their experience, right? But I would imagine that most of this is exactly what was written on page, just because of the flow of it and how
it doesn't get muddled with the improv. You can feel like there are definitely moments where it's happening. A lot of it is in these moments where there's sort of a montage of sorts going on, but you hear their conversations kind of sprinkled in amongst it. It's almost like an ADR type thing, but you can just kind of hear bits and pieces. You don't hear the full conversation, but you just hear pieces. And that gives it such a dose of reality too, because of the things that they're talking about. It's really clever. It's well done.
Yeah, the sound design, because you would hear, as you're having a conversation, the other 6 people that you're with in a tour group, you would just kind of hear what they say, and you might like break into conversation with them and then break back into your own, and that's absolutely true. Well, things are great with the showstopper, but I always love to put on my director's shoes and crap all over it. Are you ready, Cam?
Let's do it.
Mine's short and sweet. I think that there are a couple of shots, though, and people are getting this confused with his directorial debut. That's not correct.
It's not his directorial debut.
No.
His directorial debut was, what was it called again?
Something with Finn Wolfhard. It was.
It's like when you
finish saving the world.
When you finish saving the world.
There it is. Yeah. This is his second directorial debut.
His sophomorial directorial.
Ooh, sophomorial. I like that. And so let's make that clear. This is not his directorial debut. He had a chance at something. So what I already appreciate is how artful that his shots are, and his eye for the camera, and what makes film special. So, but there are some shots that linger a little bit too long. One in particular, I found myself laughing out loud, and I was like, oh, well, I found that funny. No one else did. There are some transitions that linger a little bit too long. And I swear there is a moment where we see Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin walk into a frame of a scene. And I swear to you, Jesse Eisenberg, out of his peripheral, is glancing at the camera crew, making sure they're following him correctly. I'm going to look for it again on a revisit, on a rewatch, but I know it's there. So there's a couple of little things like that. But ultimately, there's not a lot to pick at here.
Yeah, mine is similar. I had some issues with some of the editing. There were times where we were doing too many cuts for no real reason. Like we're on a train or we're walking through an area and it's just like cut, and for no real reason at all. There's no visual storytelling purpose. There's you expect things following, like, even though they're small things, you're like, oh, they kind of focused in on this door or this thing. And so you're thinking like there's going to be some sort of Chekhov's gun payoff type of thing going on. But then you just realize like, oh, that was just, they wanted to cut there and show something else. And there was no real reason for that. So I think that, these are things that you tend to see whenever you've got kind of I guess you would call it like a junior director, sophomorial. Yeah, which I don't mean to like say that as a slight. I think filmmaking is obviously extraordinarily difficult, and I couldn't do it. But that's why we're critics.
Hello.
We see these things, and then I think going back to the sound design, there are times where the sound design is not working super well, where the mixing and editing, the voices are super loud or super quiet. There's some ADR mishaps that happen a couple of times, small ones, but usually in the scene transitions. So it kind of comes back to editing
Mhm.
a little bit. So there are some blips and blemishes here and there in the film, but um, I do like the way that it looks. I think it's artfully shot. I think there's a lot of shots that have a ton of purpose. There's some shots that you can tell they were just like, this is cool, let's throw it in. But it's mostly very effective.
Mhm. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And now let's talk about our final thoughts and score, ladies and gentlemen. For this, I'd like you to have a really smoky voice, Cam,
I can't.
when you deliver
I'll try.
when you deliver your final thoughts and score. Searchlight Pictures has my heart. Here's some of the movies that you have seen, you, the audience, and Cameron. Banshees of Inisherin, Brooklyn, Fresh, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Birdman, 12 Years a Slave, The Descendants, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Ready or Not, wait for it, Napoleon Dynamite, Crazy Heart, Enough Said, Suncoast, The Greatest Hits. The list goes on. These types of movies are ones that I run toward because the emotional dynamic is the forefront of these films, of the story. It's the one that where I get a free therapy session outside of my regular therapy session, and I crumble. I crave it. I just wait for the next trailer from Searchlight Pictures to be announced. So all that said, an incredible film. So happy to have seen it and got to see it early. So thanks to our team who lets us do that. My score today is 8.2 out of 10 kernels.
Yeah, I echo a lot of that. I really like this movie. Admittedly, I am biased towards these movies like you. I tend to just really like these. I like introspective movies. This is certainly that. I like interpretive movies. This is certainly that. I like movies that are not linear. And this isn't. That's not a spoiler. This isn't like non-linear in the way that you would think of a non-linear movie, but it's not a normal story flow, and that's what I really like. I just want things to be different. I want to think, I want to feel, and this movie accomplishes that. So I have to give it high marks for that. It's so deeply relatable on some levels, to a point where you're just like, wow, this person understands the human experience, and I think Jesse Eisenberg really has had clearly some real human experiences. So that's refreshing to see. I thought it was great. I had the same exact score in mind as you whenever we walked in. As I kind of talk about it, I'm gonna give it 8.0.
Okay.
But I do think it's really, eight is what I always say is a great movie. I think this is a great movie. I think there are aspects of it that are certainly Oscar award worthy. There are other aspects that you're like, that could have been better. But uh, one I will recommend to people, and one I'm excited to revisit again at some point.
Absolutely. And again, as we said at the top of this episode, remember, we had the perfect parking space.
Yeah.
There's not a better
It's
parking
true.
space.
It was the best possible space.
Unless they allowed us to park in the actual theater building, there was no better parking
True.
space. It's
true.
insane.
You got to factor that in.
So just know that if you go see this and you have a bad parking space, just like recalibrate, try to move through it.
Deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth.
Man, I got a quick pop quiz for you, Cam.
Oh Lord.
I don't know if you scanned the whole cast list. I don't know if you dove deep into the whole cast list. Don't do it now.
Okay. Hands off.
I want to know. This is crazy. Do you know who the lead female was? Or can you name another movie that she was in? That was two iconic films she's been in.
Was it Jennifer Grey?
It was Jennifer Grey.
I'm terrible at the match game movie list thing.
Two iconic films, one of which you may or may not have been named after.
Yeah, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
There it is.
It's that Jennifer Grey.
It's that Jennifer Grey.
Dirty Dancing.
Dirty Dancing. Those are the two right there. So
is it really?
It's her. It's her, my friend.
I saw the name and I was like, oh, Jennifer Grey, but I didn't. Wow.
Yes. As you know, she was very young in those films. And here she is. She's not old by any means, but I mean, looking at her now, it's a very different Jennifer Grey, but still the same command of the screen.
My mind is actively being blown. She was really good too. She was a real contender for my scene stealer.
She was close.
The whole tour group was so fun.
It was perfect.
Great dynamic all around. So real.
It was. So run out to see A Real Pain. It hits theaters this Friday, the day that this episode drops. You'll be able to listen or watch this review online or anywhere you listen to your podcasts. And then you'll be able to go straight to the theater and say, hey, I had a great recommendation for this movie. Tell that directly to the ticket taker. Don't order your tickets online.
Yes, please.
Go straight to the counter and say, hey, listen, there's a podcast that I love. It's called Popcorn for Breakfast. You can check them out on any of their social media content. They've got everything from Facebook to X to Instagram to TikToks. We've got it all. And of course, popcorn, the number 4, breakfast.com is our website with all of our blogs and all of our episodes and everything. So make sure you tell that to that unsuspecting ticket taker.
Or any random person you happen to encounter.
That's right.
We're not picky.
You're at the urinal.
Hey, man. Yeah.
Go ahead. Continue.
No, I won't. I don't know. I actually don't know how to continue that conversation from there. That's too far already, actually, if you're at the urinal.
We appreciate you guys. Make sure you check out all of those things and more. Lots of incredible early screenings we've got for you this particular month, including this, A Real Pain. We have The Brutalist. We have Wicked, possibly part 1, most likely part 1.
It's definitely part 1, though it's not called that.
Not anymore.
So everybody brace yourselves for that.
And of course, Gladiator 2. All of this and more. Please make sure you like, subscribe, follow. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.